My name's Ryan. I'm 29, and I guess you could say I've always been the other one in my family. Not the golden child, not the black sheep. Just somewhere in between, like a forgotten middle chapter in a book nobody rereads. My sister, Megan, is 2 years younger than me and has always basked in the center of attention like she was born with a spotlight over her head. My parents doted on her, my aunts cooed over her, and the world, as far as my family was concerned, revolved around whatever mood she happened to be in that day. I never really minded it growing up. I wasn't a troublemaker or a star student, just kind of there. I got good grades, kept to myself, and figured life would even out once we were adults. But it didn't. Megan became the type of woman who could make mediocrity look glamorous. She married a guy named Chase who wore boat shoes to Thanksgiving dinner and called himself an entrepreneur, though no one could explain exactly what he did. They had matching Instagram accounts, matching smiles, and now, matching diaper bags, apparently, because they were having their first child. When the baby shower invitation came, it was as if someone tossed me a bone after forgetting I existed. It was a mass text with a glittery JPEG invite that read, "Help us shower Megan with love," in pink cursive. No personal message. No. "Hey Ree, would love to see you there." Just a date, a time, and an Amazon registry link that had more commas than my monthly rent. I clicked it anyway. Part of me wanted to skip it. I hadn't seen Megan in person in almost a year, and our last interaction had been awkward, to say the least. She'd, accidentally, left me off the family group chat that planned our dad's retirement dinner, and when I showed up late after finding out secondhand, she gave me that tight-lipped smile that meant, "Oops, you weren't supposed to be here." But for whatever reason, guilt, habit, maybe just loneliness, I found myself scrolling through that registry like it meant something. That's when I saw it. The most expensive item on the list. A state-of-the-art, 5-in-1 smart baby crib that syncs with your phone, plays white noise, rocks itself, and probably tucks the baby in with a lullaby sung by Morgan Freeman. It cost more than my monthly car payment. I don't know what came over me. Maybe I wanted to prove something. Maybe I thought, just for a moment, that doing something big, something kind, might finally earn me a spot at the adult table, metaphorically speaking. So I bought it. Scheduled delivery. Wrapped it myself in matte gold paper with a cream ribbon. I even had the store include a little card that said, "To Megan and Chase, wishing you both all the joy in the world." From Ryan. The shower was held at a trendy little garden venue on the edge of town. It looked like something out of a bridal magazine. White tents, floral arrangements that smelled like money, and a soft jazz trio playing in the background. I arrived in a button-up and slacks, gift in hand, and was immediately greeted by no one. Megan was at the center of a crowd, laughing as if she were the host of her own reality show, and Chase was too busy shaking hands with guests to even glance my way. I found a table in the back. Saturday. Waited. The program dragged on. Games, toasts, a montage of ultrasound pictures. Finally, they announced gift opening. Everyone gathered near the front, and I lingered toward the side, pretending not to care as tissue paper and ribbons flew through the air. Megan oohed and awed at everything. A fancy stroller, designer baby clothes, diaper cakes stacked like a Vegas buffet. Then, my gift was wheeled out. It didn't fit on the table with the others. It had its own cart. The room quieted a bit as people craned their necks. Megan's face lit up when she saw the box, clearly recognizing what it was. She smiled wide, then looked around and spotted me for the first time that day. "Wow," she said, laughing. "Looks like someone really went all out." A few people chuckled. She ran a manicured hand along the box, then glanced at her best friend, Kristen, the maid of honor from her wedding, the one who once told me I gave off substitute teacher energy. Megan giggled again and said, "Let's be honest, Ryan was never really part of this family anyway." The room erupted in laughter, and I just stood there, frozen. I can't tell you exactly what I felt in that moment. It wasn't anger. Not right away. It was something deeper, heavier, like being submerged in a tub of warm water that slowly turns cold, and you don't notice until your skin starts to go numb. I didn't say anything, didn't move, just stared at her, then at the others, watching them laugh like they weren't peeling my ribs open and mocking what was inside. I sat back down, feeling like an exhibit at a zoo. 10 minutes passed, maybe 15. People returned to their mimosas and cupcakes. The jazz trio switched to a pop song with a cello. I was about to get up and leave when a waiter in a black vest approached the table. "Excuse me," he said. "Are you Ryan?" I nodded, half expecting to be told I needed to move my car or something. He smiled politely. "Just wanted to confirm. Are you the one who booked the venue?" I blinked. "Yeah, that's me." I hadn't told anyone that. Megan hadn't even asked who reserved the space. I'd done it weeks ago, when I called the vendor myself and paid the deposit up front. No one in the family volunteered. Megan said, "I'm too tired," and Mom said, "We'll figure it out." And like always, I just handled it. I looked back at the waiter. "Why?" He nodded behind him. "There's a small issue with the kitchen, but we can resolve it. Just needed to speak with whoever signed the contract." I glanced around the room. Megan was sipping a mocktail. Kristen was showing someone the gift she'd just been handed, and Chase was bragging to a guy in a Patagonia vest about the networking potential of fatherhood. I stood up. "Actually," I said, my voice calm, "I think we're done here." The waiter raised an eyebrow. "Sir." I looked across the room, loud enough for them to hear. "That'd be me. I booked the venue, and I think we're done here." The music stopped. Chairs creaked. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Megan stood up, her expression shifting from confusion to disbelief. "You wouldn't dare," she hissed, stepping forward. But I was already pulling my phone from my pocket. And that is where things started to unravel faster than I ever expected. Megan's heels clicked against the polished floor as she stormed toward me, dress swishing, a hand resting protectively on her barely, their baby bump like I was about to physically attack her. I didn't move. I didn't raise my voice. I just opened the vendor's app on my phone, tapped the reservation dashboard, and scrolled to the section labeled Event Management. "Ryan," she said through gritted teeth, her smile frozen in place for the benefit of onlookers, "this is not funny. You're embarrassing yourself." I glanced up at her, deadpan. "No, I think you handled that part for me." Behind her, a few people were whispering now. Kristen's jaw had gone slack, her eyes darting between us like she was trying to piece together a crime scene. My Aunt Carol, the self-appointed family matriarch, stood with her arms crossed and muttered something to my mother, who refused to look me in the eye. "Ryan," Megan said again, lowering her voice. "You're being ridiculous. This is my baby shower." "Right," I said. "That I planned. That I paid for. That I wasn't even greeted at." "You paid for the venue," she scoffed, trying to wave me off. "Not the party." "No," I corrected. "I paid the deposit. I arranged the schedule. I booked the vendors, the music, the caterers, everything except the part where I was treated like a guest. But I should have known. I mean, you're right. I was never really part of this family anyway." She flinched. Just a flicker. But I saw it. I turned to the waiter. "Shut it down." The poor guy looked like he'd just walked into a soap opera. "Sir, just to confirm, you'd like us to shut it down." There was a moment of silence, like the whole room held its breath. Then the waiter gave a small nod and walked briskly back toward the kitchen. "What does that mean?" Megan demanded. "You can't just, Ryan, you can't shut down a party. That's not how this works." "It is," I said, calmly sliding my phone back into my pocket, "when your name's on the contract." Around us, the tension rippled outward like a dropped stone in still water. One by one, conversations halted. People turned. The jazz trio stood up, unsure whether to keep playing. And then, slowly, the staff started moving. A pair of waiters walked toward the food tables and began placing covers on the trays. Another started gently ushering people away from the open bar. One of the musicians packed up his cello. Chase finally noticed something was off and wandered over, his brow furrowed in confusion. What's going on?" "Ryan's having a meltdown," Megan said, forcing a laugh, "and trying to ruin everything. It's fine. He'll get over it." I looked him square in the eye. "You might want to call an Uber. The venue closes in 15 minutes. Chase blinked. "Wait, seriously?" "Seriously." Megan turned on me then, her voice rising. "You're doing this out of spite. Just because I made a joke? God, Ryan, grow up. That gift was ridiculous anyway. You're not even a father. What do you know about baby gear?" "I was just trying to be funny." "Oh, I get it," I said. "You were making a joke. Like at Dad's party when I accidentally didn't get the invitation. Or Mom's birthday dinner where you told the waiter to leave me off the bill because I didn't order anything real. Or every Christmas morning when I'm handed a card while you unwrap a designer purse." Megan's mouth opened. Closed. "That's not the same." "It is," I said. It's exactly the same. It's always the same. And I've always taken it. Quietly. Because I thought maybe, just maybe, one day you'd see me as more than the guy who's good for favors. But now, I'm done. People were standing now, watching. No one interrupted. No one tried to stop me. The ones who once laughed now kept their mouths shut, eyes wide like they were watching a play and afraid to miss the final act. The catering staff began rolling away the cake, a two-tier monstrosity with "Welcome Baby Olivia" scrawled in pink frosting. Megan rushed forward, arms flailing. No, no, no. That cake cost $400. Where are you taking it? I shrugged. Technically, it's mine. Chase stepped in. Ryan, come on, let's just talk. There's got to be a way to fix this. You had your chance, I said. All of you did. A toddler started crying somewhere in the background, overwhelmed by the sudden tension and noise. The florist, a young woman with wild curls and a clipboard, approached me quietly and asked if I still wanted the arrangements broken down per the contract. I nodded. She gave me a sympathetic smile and walked off. Megan, red-faced and furious, turned to our mother, who was still seated near the back, unmoving. Are you seriously going to let him do this? Say something. But Mom just looked at her, then looked at me, and said nothing. That's when Megan's voice cracked. This is my baby shower. And now, I said, it's over. Kristen tried to intervene then. You can't seriously be throwing away your own sister's party. Over what, your feelings? Yeah, I said simply. Over my feelings. Wild concept, right? That I might have them. And that is when the music system cut completely. The overhead lights flicked on. The illusion, the curated perfection of the event, broke apart in an instant. It was just a rented garden room now, with cheap folding chairs, melting ice buckets, and a whole lot of very quiet people pretending not to pick sides. But they all already had, and Megan knew it. She stood there, jaw clenched, mascara threatening to smudge at the corners of her eyes, arms wrapped across her chest like she could hold the day together by sheer force of will. The silence around her felt louder than any words could have been. No one rushed to defend her. Not Chase. Not Kristen. Not even Mom. A few of the guests had already begun to gather their things and head toward the exit, avoiding eye contact, murmuring about traffic or babysitters, or what a shame. I could see the cracks forming in Megan's expression, anger melting into confusion, then disbelief, and finally something closer to fear. Not fear of me, of course, but fear that she was finally losing control of the narrative. Megan had always been the one to steer the story, to make herself the star and everyone else the extras. And now the spotlight had turned on her for the wrong reasons. I can't believe you'd do this to me, she whispered, voice trembling just enough for me to know it wasn't just rage anymore. To my baby. That hit harder than I thought it would. For a moment, my chest tightened. She played that line like a professional, weaponizing the word baby as if it could shield her from consequence. And I knew what came next. The guilt, the shaming, the questions from relatives later. Why couldn't you just let it go, Ryan? It was her special day, but that card had been played too many times already. I met her eyes. You don't get to hide behind your baby after the way you treated me. That child hasn't even been born yet, and you're already using her like a shield. She blinked, stunned. A few guests looked visibly uncomfortable now. Kristen opened her mouth like she was about to jump in again, but even she seemed unsure whether Megan had crossed a line too far this time. Aunt Carol, never one to stay out of family drama when there's a stage, finally stepped forward, all righteous indignation. This is family, Ryan. You don't blow up your sister's baby shower over a joke. You don't cancel everything and throw a tantrum just because you're feeling left out. My hands clenched, but I kept my tone even. Funny, I've been left out for years. Nobody batted an eye when I wasn't invited to Thanksgiving or when Megan forgot to send me a birthday message for 3 years in a row. But now, suddenly, me setting a boundary is the unforgivable act. You could have talked to her privately, Carol insisted, arms folded like she was laying down the law. Not humiliated her in front of everyone. I nodded slowly. Right? The way she privately handed my gift to Kristen and told the whole room I wasn't part of the family? That kind of privacy. A flush of red spread across Carol's cheeks. She had no comeback for that. Neither did anyone else. I turned and walked toward the front door of the venue, the murmur of guests swirling behind me like static. I could hear Megan breathing hard, but she didn't follow me, didn't say my name. I paused just short of the entrance, resting my hand on the frame, then turned back for one last glance. That perfect picture she always tried to paint, her carefully curated world, it was smudged now. The flowers being unceremoniously packed into bins. The servers hauling out trays of uneaten food. The jazz musicians wheeling their equipment out with blank expressions. And Megan, frozen in the middle of it all, no longer the adored center of attention, but the person everyone would whisper about for months. Chase was seated at a table, scrolling on his phone. Whether he was already looking up rideshare options or checking fantasy football scores, I couldn't tell. But he wasn't rushing to her side. That was all I needed to see. I stepped outside. The sun had begun to set, casting gold and rose across the trees lining the venue. For a second, I just stood there, breathing. The air felt cooler, lighter, like I'd finally set down a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message. From Mom. That was unnecessary. You know how Megan is. I stared at it for a long moment. I didn't reply. Instead, I slid the phone back in my pocket, walked to my car, and drove away, no destination in mind, just away from the noise, the expectations, the silence I'd tolerated for far too long. As I drove, something clicked in my chest. Not relief, not victory. Something deeper, like the slow settling of foundation after an earthquake. A quiet rebuilding. But the story wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. Because 3 days later, my inbox was full of refund requests. Voicemails. A lawyer's name I didn't recognize. And a message from Megan that read, "I hope you're happy. Because you just ruined everything." I didn't open the message right away. It sat there in my inbox, just below an email from the catering company with the subject line, "Refund Dispute," and another from the venue's event manager politely asking if I could clarify the abrupt cancellation, plus a not-so-polite one from Kristen demanding reimbursement for her non-refundable hair and makeup. The whole digital pile sat like a monument to the disaster I'd left behind. I opened Megan's message last. I didn't know what I expected. Maybe some twisted apology or another passive-aggressive guilt trip wrapped in faux concern. But all it said was, "I hope you're happy. Because you just ruined everything." There was no "Hi, Ryan." No, I didn't mean what I said. No, I'm sorry. Just blame. As always. I closed the laptop and stared at the ceiling for a while, letting the silence of my apartment settle in. There were no cries from babies, no distant hum of laughter from relatives gathered in the other room. Just quiet. Peaceful. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was on the outside of some glass wall, nose pressed up against the illusion of family. Still, I wasn't completely cold. I called the venue manager the next morning and told her to release the remaining funds I'd already paid, minus the cancellation fees, to the catering team and musicians. They deserved to be paid for their time. I wasn't about to drag innocent vendors into a family feud. The cake had already been donated to a local women's shelter. The florist, thankfully, hadn't billed for the cleanup, saying she'd seen worse family meltdowns, and actually complimented me for walking away instead of shouting. But the refund requests kept coming. Apparently, Megan had told several guests that I'd be covering the cost of everything, from food to favors to gift bags with custom onesies that read, "Baby, oh coming soon." I was now getting Venmo requests from cousins I hadn't seen in 5 years asking for their share back. That was the last straw. I opened my group family chat, the one I was usually silent in, and typed for the first time in months. To clarify, I paid for the venue deposit and planned the event. I canceled it after being publicly humiliated. I'm not reimbursing anyone for costs I never agreed to cover. If you have an issue with that, please take it up with Megan. And then, for the first time in my adult life, I left the group chat. No explanation. No grand exit. Just a quiet, clean break. The silence was immediate. Until the phone call started. Mom called first. I let it ring. Then Chase called. Twice. Then, on a rainy Thursday evening, my doorbell rang. I peeked through the peephole and saw Megan, drenched, mascara streaking down her face like melting ink. I opened the door, mostly out of morbid curiosity. "Wow," I said dryly. "Did the storm ruin your Instagram story?" She ignored the jab. "Can I come in?" I hesitated, then stepped aside. She stood in the middle of my small living room, dripping water onto the hardwood floor, and looked around like she'd never really seen where I lived. Maybe she hadn't. She'd only been here once. during a Christmas drop-off where she stayed in the car and sent Chase to hand me a gift bag with expired chocolate and a candle that smelled like wet laundry. I didn't come to fight, she said finally. That's new. She sighed and sat on the edge of the couch, folding her arms tightly. You really humiliated me, Ryan. In front of everyone. I stayed standing. You humiliated me first. In front of everyone. For years. I didn't mean it, she muttered. It was a joke. You handed the gift I brought to your best friend and said I was never part of the family. That's not a joke, Megan. That's a public declaration. She stared at her lap. It was supposed to be funny. It was cruel. Silence again. I didn't think you'd actually shut everything down, she said after a moment. I laughed. Yeah, that was the point. Megan bit her lip. You know, after you left, Mom wouldn't even speak to me. Carol told everyone I'd gone too far. Kristen blocked me. People started leaving before the hour was up. I spent the night crying on my bathroom floor. I sat across from her, arms folded. Good. She blinked. I'm not glad you cried, Megan. I'm not happy you were hurt. But I am glad that, for once, you felt what it's like to be dismissed. To be the outsider. You've had a free pass for a long time. You've built your entire life on being adored, and you use people like wrapping paper. Tear him open, get what you want, toss him out. I was the fool who kept showing up hoping to matter. But I'm done. She wiped at her cheek. You don't have to be mean about it. Neither do you, I replied. But you were. Over and over. She looked up at me. So what? You're just cutting me out now? Like I never mattered. I tilted my head. Isn't that what you did to me? Another silence. Then, surprisingly, she said, I don't know why I treated you like that. I always assumed you'd be there. No matter what. And I thought maybe if I made you the punchline, people would laugh harder. Like I needed to prove something. I stared at her. Did it work? No, she whispered. I stood up. I'm not here to fix you, Megan. I'm not here to make you feel better about what you did. If you came to apologize, then fine. But if you came to make yourself feel like the victim again, you can leave. She hesitated. I am sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I am sorry. I believed her. For the first time in years, I actually believed her. I nodded. Thanks. She stood up slowly, her eyes a little clearer now. Can we ever fix this? I don't know, I said honestly. But you can start by not making me regret showing up. She left quietly, pulling the hood of her coat over her head as the rain picked up again. I watched her walk to her car. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel like I'd won. But I felt free, like I'd finally stopped chasing something that was never mine to begin with. 2 weeks later, I got an invitation in the mail. Handwritten. No glittery JPGs. No group text. Small gathering at Mom's. Just close family. Hope to see you there, if you want to come. No games. No drama. Just dinner. Signed. Megan. I didn't RSVP. I didn't text her. But that Sunday I showed up. And this time, there was a chair for me. With my name on it. And next to it, a small gift bag with a card inside. To Ryan. Thank you for finally making me grow up. The card smelled faintly of cinnamon. No insults. No sarcasm. Just my name. It wasn't perfect. It never would be. But it was real. And for once that was enough.